William is associate professor in the Department of English, got his PhD degree from National University in Singapore, and joined PolyU after that in 2012, William? 10, 12?
13, actually.
13. Okay, almost correct. Okay, yeah. Before my time. Yeah. So thank you very much, William, for agreeing to give this seminar today. And once again, a warm welcome to everybody. And William's topic today is analyzing professional discourse from a multimodal perspective. So over to you, William.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hans. This is really a pleasant surprise. I did not, we did not, because I'm the seminar coordinator, so I was prepared to introduce myself as I always did. So thank you all for joining. Okay, I'm sorry I'm a bit late. I just ran from another conference just finished another talk. Today I'm going to share with you this topic on analyzing professional discourse from a multimodal perspective. This is actually basically from a multimodal perspective, different resources make meaning in an integrated way, contributing to a multimodal whole, a multimodal ensemble. Okay, and in the process of communication, sign makers select apt resources to convey meaning, reflecting their interests. And they need to understand the affordances that each mode offers and orchestrate them in such a way that a semiotic harmony can be achieved. And this is also in accordance with the maximalist view of communication that Levy proposed. In this view, multiple cues are present simultaneously in producing a message. And human beings have a natural instinct to draw on as many different sensory, modal, cognitive, and semiotic resources as available to them to interpret the meaning intentions whilst assessing the relative relevance and significance of different cues. Okay, so that is the first start point. That is professional communication is multimodal. So we have to look at the multimodal resources. And the second point of departure is the fact that professional communication is more and more digitalized, like what we are doing now, right? Okay, so then in this context, researchers have started to develop new analytical models to address the question, what happens when various genres move online? Okay, so there will be differences, and there will be also change in terms of communicative purpose. Okay, so there have been a lot of studies on like home pages, e-shopping sites, and blogs, and YouTube videos. Okay, so this suggests that digital genres are characterized by multiple communicative purposes, non-linear move structure, and the use of multimodal resources. Okay, so we need to understand these new features of digital genres, digital professional discourse. Okay, so if I just use this product design as an example, we can see here, we get this this thing here. Okay, at the first sight, it seems to be a clothespin, right? But actually, this is a USB drive. Okay, and if we look at this image here, we can say that this is this plants, right? This is flowers, plants. But actually, these are desserts. I come across this, a few years ago in a shop in Hong Kong, and I was so surprised. Why do they sell plants at a dessert shop, at a cake shop? And then when I read the labels, it is actually cake. Okay, so we have this hybridity of forms and functions, right? So in terms of form, this is a clothespin and this is plants. But in terms of function, they're performing very different functions, right? So we do not have this correspondence between form and function anymore. So we got this mixture. Okay, in the discourse, we call it interdiscursivity, right? So we have this interaction between the clothespin and USB drive, and also between plants and cake. Okay, so that is product design. And in terms of advertisements, if we look at this image, this is Mona Lisa. But then if we look at this one, this is a manipulated Mona Lisa, right? Okay, and this is manipulated for the purpose of promoting this instant espresso coffee. Okay, so you can say this is something that is really between art and advertising, right? It is advertisement in terms of purpose, but it is also kind of based on this original form of art. And if you look at this example, this is a different kind of manipulation. This is Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. And then we have this kind of advertisement that is not really making explicit reference to this painting. Okay, so if you don't know about this this painting, you probably would not recognize, right? So here, this is more kind of a copyright violating imitation, right? But this is more implicit. But anyway, we have this kind of mixture between art and advertising. So modern design, visual design, is challenging orders and boundaries. Okay, and then that leads us to the new media. Okay, if we look at this very obvious cases of e-commerce size, okay, we have all the functions of promotion, information, instruction, regulation, entertainment, etc. Okay, so it's a mixture of different kinds of functions in one page. Okay, so this is from our colleague Phoenix Lam's study of Groupon in Hong Kong. So professional discourse online is characterized by the multiplicity and a hybridity of communicative purposes realized through multimodal resources. Okay, so we have this question: how to model this complexity? Okay, so I will talk about several cases, okay, to just to show, demonstrate the point that we do need multimodal analysis in dealing with professional discourse. I will first talk about corporate communication on social media, and then I will talk about professional discourse in educational contexts. Okay, so first, corporate communication on social media. Okay, I will talk about two aspects. First is the complexity of communicative purposes, and second is the complexity of structure. Okay, so first job is to model the complexity of communicative purposes, okay, which, as I said, is often the case in new media communication. So in the past, an advertisement was just doing advertisement, right? A art is an art, but now art is like advertisement, and advertisement is like art. And social media, e-commerce, they are doing everything. So we need to model the complexity of these communicative purposes. Okay, and one framework that that we used, my students doctoral thesis, I will introduce later, is our colleague Professor Chris Mathison's register typology. So he talked about these different types of activities, like explaining things, for example, or reporting and recreating in narrative, and sharing and recommending in promotion, right? That's where advertising is, okay? And we also have instructions, okay? So just to show you some examples, if you look at this kind of this Facebook, I think, post, you can see this is reporting, right? So with a time and an event. So very formal reporting. And then in comparison with this kind of formal reporting, we also have this kind of sharing. Okay, so this sharing is more personal. So you say we are proud, and so on. So so let's see, is everything okay? Sorry.
Yes, everything is okay.
Good. Okay,
everything is okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, so then we also have instruction. We also have this kind of telling you how to do something, right? So like this, how to brew a soft cup of coffee. Okay, and we also have explaining, okay, how design thinking can improve your right, and why something. So we also have explanation. So you can say this kind of corporate branding on social media is a mixture of different kinds of activities, right, including explaining and sharing and reporting and promoting and so on. Okay, so then we can apply this kind of model to look at exactly what corporate social media posts are doing. Okay, so this is the thesis by my student, Dr. Xu Yan. Okay, so what she did was analyzing the delivery companies' social media posts in China. Okay, and altogether, she collected 814 posts. Okay, and the research questions are very simple. Is first, just what semiotic activities are used? Okay, so the things that we talked about, right? So is it explaining or sharing, and what are their proportions? And second, how are these activities constructed through language and images? Okay, that is when you have explaining, how do you explain something? When you have a reporting or sharing, how do you use language and images to report, to share, to explain, and so on? And the third question is why? Okay, what are the communicative functions of these activities? Why are they designed in such a way? What do they reflect about corporate branding on social media? Okay, so then the analysis would involve, all the content analysis of the different kinds of activities, right? So if you have 800, then you can say how many sharing, how many expounding, how many, and so on. And then if I just focus on reporting, then the focus would be what happens when corporate news move online. Okay, so we know about corporate news, okay, but we know news has changed significantly when it moved from newspaper to television and to social media, right? So we want to find out what happens when they move online. Okay, what are the new features? And these would include in terms of what is reported and in terms of how something is reported. Okay, so we can talk about the kinds of hybridity, the stylistic features, the text-image interplay, and so on. Okay, so if I just give you some quick examples, so this is on the reporting of corporate ability. So we can say how the this delivery company is posting as as the ceremony and all the kind of certificates and medals. And in reporting stuff, we can also say they are posting the images of their staff, and also they are not just the staff at work. They are also staff that are very versatile. So you can say this is their staff at a talent show at China Central Television. Okay, so this is what is reported. We can say that it's very different from traditional kind of newspaper reporting. And we can also analyze the images here. So, basically this is based on this classical seminal work, right, book in multimodal analysis, Creston and Lewin's reading images. So if you apply the three meta functions of this image analysis, so we can look at what are depicted, right? What are the actions they do? And you can also look at the camera angles and so on, right? Okay, so if you look at this analysis here, so we can look at the distribution of staff photo and event photo and object photo. And we can also look at the different categories of goods in the staff photos. So that is what things, what objects are the staff with, right? So like courier service, food and drink, and so on. And we can also look at the dress type. Okay, are they wearing courier uniform or herald dress, or and so on, right? Okay, and we can also look at the setting. Okay, where they are. Okay, are they in the streets or a business center or office and so on. Okay, so aside from what is depicted, we can also look at social distance. Okay, are they close, short, or longer, short? Okay, so we can have this kind of distribution, right, in terms of the different kinds of choices. Okay, so based on this, then we can talk about the features of corporate discourse on social media. Okay, so based on the analysis of the communicative purposes of how they realized by language images, then we can talk about the features of, for example, promotionalization, implicit kind of promotion. We can talk about recreationalization. Okay, that is the content is getting more artistic and more entertaining compared with the traditional kinds of advertising or branding discourse. And we can also talk about the style of personalization, right? So this is in terms of both content and language style, it becomes more and more kind of personalized. Okay, so and then we can talk about emotionalization. Okay, so how things become more symbolic, more cultural elements, and creating boundings and so on. Okay, so in all, then we talk about the hybridity of informing, instructing, and recreating and promoting. So we can say this hybridization of communicative purposes. Okay, so this framework can be used to understand digitalized professional communication during COVID-19. Okay, so my students and I have done several studies of the discourse during COVID-19. For example, the multimodal public health education discourse on social media. Okay, so how do they do public health education during this kind of public health emergency? And we also look at the communicative functions of social media news during public health crisis. Apparently, they are not just reporting facts, right? They also serve, all kinds of purposes. Okay, so modeling the different kinds of communicative purposes on of social media news. Okay, so and finally, we can also look at the corporate social responsibility discourse. Okay, so apparently they do not, of course, this is a good opportunity for the companies to demonstrate their corporate social responsibility, right? So all these can be modeled, how, and of course, this is made possible by the affordances of social media. Okay, and beyond that, you can see these kind of texts, they are very short, right? So, this kind of text is just, on Facebook and on Twitter, they are very short. But sometimes we have a longer text that we need more kind of, genre analysis, that is move analysis, right? So this study, I'm not going to talk about in detail. You can access here if you're interested. So the question is simply as I have been asking for the for the last research. What happens when university recruitment advertisements move to social media? Okay, so we talk about the differences in terms of communicative purpose, in terms of mode structure, in terms of multimodal realization, the orchestration of linguistic and visual resources, and also in terms of the social context and the affordances of the social media platform that is WeChat here. Okay, so this is, when we analyze longer text with structure, so we can say how the structure has changed, okay? How the structure of social media advertisements are different from traditional newspaper advertisements, okay? So we need this kind of multimodal genre analysis. And I will now talk about this genre analysis using the second type of research, that is professional discourse in educational contexts. Okay, so I will first briefly talk about the structure of PowerPoint design. Okay, so I will consider PowerPoint as a digital genre. And then I will talk about a more recent project done with a colleague of online teaching videos, this kind of digitalized forms of professional communication. So in this study, I consider PowerPoint as digitalized professional genre. Okay, so we know PowerPoint is used in most classrooms. So different from the traditional talk and talk method, visual modes have become an integral part of classroom teaching. Okay? However, the problem is that practicing teachers are not trained to use various non-linguistic resources and hence to fail to teach students effectively. Okay, so therefore, we need to understand how multimodal resources, especially visual images, are used in educational contexts. Okay, so I will just quickly, go through the analysis. If you are interested, you can read this study in this paper. Okay, so the data I used was 33 sets of PowerPoint slides, altogether almost 2,000 slides. These are award-winning kind of PowerPoint designs in a national PowerPoint context in China. And the method is basically the multimodal genre analysis. And I wanted to study the generic structure of the PowerPoint and how they are realized through multimodal resources. Okay, so this would include the rhetorical moves. And what are the moves? And how are they realized? And then what do they reflect about the pedagogy in the teaching of linguistics in Chinese universities? Okay, yeah, so you say it's the same kind of questions, right? What are the moves? How are they realized? And why they are designed in such a way? Okay, so I will briefly report the result here in terms of the structure. So you can say here, this is the headline, the content, leading, the concept, definition, explanation, exemplification, and exercise and answer. So without going into details, I will just make this observation that these organizations reflect a very teacher-centered instruction. Okay, so you can say it is the teacher that is talking about the content, talking about the concept, explaining, giving examples, and giving exercises. Okay, and it's very knowledge-oriented rather than analysis-oriented. So students are not really asked to apply the knowledge. Okay, to do analysis. Okay, they're asked to memorize the knowledge. Okay, so like what is arbitrariness, for example? What are the meta functions? What is pragmatics? You know, things like this, because this will appear in the exams. Okay, and then I focus a bit more on the analysis of images. So we can classify the images in terms of the kinds of things that are depicted. Okay, so whether they are human beings or objects and so on. And then I also analyzed the kinds of image-text relations. Okay, so are they, when you have an image, is it unrelated to the language or is it related? And when it is related, is it projection? There's a person projecting something, right? There's a linguist there, or other kinds of relations, more complex semantic relations, right? Elaborating or exemplifying the knowledge, extending the knowledge, or providing circumstantial information here. Okay, so actually, I don't really need to go on to talk about this because based on my findings, most of the images are not related with the language at all. So if you look at the examples here and also the findings, you can say that more than half, right? Not yet, but about half are not related with the language at all. Like this kind of images. They are simply put there to decorate, right? Because there's a blank space there. Okay, so yeah, right. And this image, right? So you say they are not used effectively. And when they are used, okay, most of them are actually, when they are related, okay, most of them are exposition. Okay, that is actually about the, in phonetics, you would put a, the speech organ, things like a very abstract kind of image, a very schematic image of the speech organ, how to pronounce R, O, and these kind of things, right? So very few images are used to exemplify the abstract concepts. Okay, so I can conclude that images are not used effectively. Images are not considered as an important resource in making meaning, as demonstrated in this design. Okay, so without going into details, we can make this following critical points. Okay, this is very teacher-centered instruction of linguistic concepts, and this is not very connected to real-life experience, and there's little application of linguistic knowledge, and images are not adequately utilized as a semiotic resource to construct linguistic meaning. And when images are used, okay, half of them are randomly chosen to fill in the blank space and are not related to the text. Okay, so that is this study. We can say that images, okay, are and should be taken more seriously, okay, in professional communication in this educational context. Teachers should be prepared for using images more effectively. Okay, so and now that leads us to the final study that I'm going to report. I will spend more time on this study. This is particularly relevant in this digital online teaching kind of context, right? In this COVID-19 period. Okay, so I will talk about online teaching video as a digitalized professional genre. Okay, so we know online teaching videos are becoming more and more important. Okay, we have studies like from Dr. Chris Hefner, okay, from CDU, and also his colleague, and also actually the co-author of this study, Dr. Jennifer Ho. So they have looked at the affordances of videos, okay, how they provide new possibilities for learning, okay, in out of class context. Okay. However, few have analyzed multimodal design of online education videos, okay, with some exceptions. So we're not going to go through these studies. Okay, so we know these kind of resources in a real life classroom, right? So we have this is 20 years ago, this new learning groups, this kind of repertoire of a teacher, okay, the resources that teacher can use in a real classroom, okay? And this is a more recent book on that, Designing Learning with Embodied Teaching. But apparently, teaching the resources is not just embodied, right? Particularly in the online context, it seems you cannot use really a lot of embodied resources, right? Okay, so what about online teaching videos? The different resources available in classrooms and in online teaching contexts bring forth new opportunities and challenges to the designers of the learning environment. Okay, so online teaching confines the teacher to a screen, and therefore a creative set of multimodal resources are employed that is different from face-to-face interactions. Okay, so for instance, we have this webcam positioning in video tests. It's a resource that may imply a conscious act of representation, such as proxemics and framing. Okay, so if I don't have this camera, then perhaps the effect is not as good. So then this study, conducted mainly by Dr. Jennifer Ho, okay, was the analysis of this online teaching video, okay, Rechoice English. It is very popular. It has over 3 million views and has attracted 2,000 comments. So what I'm going to do is with some deviation from the original collaborative work is to understand how multimodal resources are orchestrated in the design of the online teaching video. Okay, so different from the previous examples I talked about, when you take a multimodal ensemble as a whole, okay, in this kind of teaching videos, it is very important to look at in the logogenetic development of the video, right? So that makes orchestration more relevant, okay? Because different resources are used in different stages of the video for different communicative purposes, right? Different moves of the lesson. Okay, so we look at the complex interplay of modes in the unfolding of the video. Okay, so if I just quickly show you the first few minutes of this video here.
No voice.
Okay, sorry, you can't hear voice?
Yes, we cannot.
Okay, let me just show it from here. No, can't. Okay. Yeah, anyway, I think I won't be able to I won't have time to show it. Okay, so anyway, I will show some screenshots later. Okay, but I hope you can get a quick idea of what the lecture is, the video is about, right? So anyway, we are you know perhaps focusing more on the visual. So I hope you get a quick idea of the resources of, that is deployed here, right? So I'm sorry about the sound, but I believe you can say that we have embodied and disembodied resources. That is a very kind of well-known kind of distinction, right? So when you talk about the resources, you have embodied, and of course, when you talk about embodied, you also have verbal and visual. And when you talk about disembodied resources, you have the setting, the cinematography, and so on. Okay, so now what I do is to develop a framework to model the resources that are available in this teaching video. Okay, so you can see in terms of the design of the setting and the camera and so on. So this is the framework that I developed. The difference is that I did not first distinguish between embodied and disembodied. Okay, I treat this video as a kind of a film. Okay, so this is basically from the a film theory. Okay, so if we consider this video design as a film, okay, and teachers as designers of a film, then we would think about different ways of deploying different resources, right? So when we have this video here, we can now classify the resources into within shot, the mise-en-scène, and across shot, the editing. And when you design the resources within shot, then you can think about the setting, okay, the background, the props, and so on. And in background, we can also have authentic background, when you have a real setting, right? Real context, or decontextualized, when you have just a blue or white background, okay? And there can be other resources here. And you can, of course, the main resource is staging. Okay, staging includes verbal and non-verbal. Okay, and verbal, you can talk about all the verbal resources you use, and non-verbal, then you would have action and clothing and so on, right? So you can have the gestures, all the resources here. And we also have the resource of cinematography here. So you can design the framing, the distance, right? And the camera angle and the lighting and so on. Okay, so these are the, consider yourself as a director, and these are the resources you have at your disposal to design your video. Okay, and then, well, as a director, okay, you do not just, you're not just concerned with within shot, right? You also have to do the editing. Well, maybe a different professional, but you also need to consider the cross-shot relations. Okay, and then these include the global organization and the local short relations. Okay, so in global organization, you would have the different kinds of move structures. Okay, you would describe your teaching as a kind of a story genre or as explanation. You use this concept explanation structure that I showed you, or problem solution pattern that is more often in stories, right? So you design the global structure of your lesson. And then at the local level, you design the different kinds of short relations. Okay, so then this would also rely on film studies, right? This Christian mass, grand syntagmatic, right? So the different shorts can be related through temporal relations or other kinds of relations, right? So that's a chronological or chronological relations. Okay, so I will not going to go into details with this. We'll focus on the structure and the use of different resources. Okay, so here we can say this is the first move. Okay, so this is what I just showed you, right? So there's no sound, but you can get this teacher here is introducing her lesson. So she said, in this American English pronunciation video, you are going to come with me to the YouTube space in LA where I don't know anyone. And we are going to go over introducing yourself. Okay, so you can see aside from the speech, okay, we have the camera angle, we have the setting, and we have the sound effect, and we have the composition. Okay, so this is the first step of introducing the lesson. And we can see what is important here is that the teacher is trying to contextualize the knowledge, to situate the knowledge. Okay, in this context, you can see here, I'm coming to LA where I don't know anyone. Okay, so and that also reflects the idea that learning a second language is about socializing oneself in a new language, right? It's about solving new problems, okay? Socializing yourself in this second language, right? So you can say this is setting the context. And second is creating problems. So this is the second move of instruction. So the first very important step is creating problems or needs. Okay, so the teacher said here, introducing yourself to a couple of people, to a crowd of people, or even just one person can make anyone nervous. Doing it in a foreign language, even more so. Okay, so we can see the change of the multimodal design, right? So the close-up shot, the setting from authentic background to decontextualize, and the composition is also she's to the left. Okay, and the very important purpose here is creating needs for study, right? So this is perhaps what we often neglect in our teaching, right? So that is to arouse students' interest and to make students feel that it is relevant to them, right? It is important to them. Of course, this is more important for a commercial kind of video, right? Okay, so then the instruction, okay, so after you create this problem, then you talk about the target expression, okay? So we can say the same kind of visual design is used here. Okay, so today we are going to go over this, right? Okay, and this is the design, okay? Okay, so you can say here, my name is, I am, yeah. So this is a focus on forms. Okay, so these resources, and then after that, then she's presenting authentic examples, the actual use. Now switching to the real setting, real context again, right? So the setting, there's a change of setting from indoor environment to authentic setting where people need to introduce themselves during the target expression. Okay, so these steps then are repeated. We're moving to the next knowledge point. Okay, and if we think about now the organization of the commercial online teaching video, so we can identify this structure, right? So we can say at first it contextualizes the knowledge and it creates the need by creating problems. And then the knowledge point then come as a solution. Okay, and then now you feel that, okay, this is important. So then comes the explanation of the knowledge. Okay, and after you have acquired this knowledge, then this knowledge is put into use, okay, in real context. So you can say the teaching is from real context and then comes back to real context, right? And that is also something that is perhaps important in teaching abstract knowledge, right? If you only stay here at the knowledge stage, then it will be very boring. And we can also say the mixture of different communicative purposes here, right? So the teacher is not just explaining the knowledge. She is also trying to engage students' interest. So you can see this use of contextualization, problem solution pattern. This is very much like an advertisement, right? Okay, so, and this is achieved by the orchestration of multimodal resources in different stages of the lesson. So we talked about this framework, right? So we have this verbal, paraverbal, cinematography, and all these resources here. Okay, and in terms of communicative purposes, I just mentioned, of course, the primary purpose is knowledge construction, okay, is to introduce this target knowledge. Okay, but we can also say it's not simply doing that. It is also about engaging viewers' interest. Okay, so that is the multiple purposes, okay, the hybridized purposes in this online video design. And I believe that is also important for our teaching online. Okay, so this kind of a problem solution pattern, perhaps it's also a good strategy for us. We present our theories, our knowledge as a solution to a real life problem. Okay, so then that makes us rethink about pedagogy. Okay, what does it mean in online teaching context? So we have been asking this question from the beginning, right? What moves on? What happens when something moves online? What are the new features? Okay, so now we need to rethink about pedagogy. It's not just about approaches and methods. It's a process of design that is realized by the orchestration of different semiotic resources. Okay, and this configuration of modes can be used hinges upon the affordances of the medium, teachers' understanding of the affordances, and the repertoire of resources that teachers possess. Okay? And these new modes have gone beyond the conventional modes used in language classrooms, and they are not included in current teacher training program. So, as we understand the need, right, for online teaching and for creating these online teaching resources, MOOCs, and so on, it is important to explore how these modes can be utilized in language teaching. And of course, we also need to do reception research, right, to see the effect of different kinds of designs. Okay, so we need to deal with these opportunities and challenges brought by this new media technology, right? So in this context, the need for understanding online teaching pedagogy is imminent, okay? As we need to create online teaching materials, as the need to create online teaching materials would arise in unforeseen circumstances, which require institutions to be ready to switch to online teaching in short notice. Okay, so that's the relevance of this study. Okay, so it's a bit of a rush. So I summarize my study here by pointing to the need of investigating the multimodal resources in digitalized professional communication. So as we introduced, professional communication has been changed by digital technology. So researchers need to investigate how multimodal resources are orchestrated for achieving multiple purposes in digitalized professional communication. And professionals also need to understand how new semiotic possibilities brought about by, to understand the new semiotic possibilities brought by the technologies for effective communication. Okay, so so in this talk, I have talked about two main aspects. The first half is more about modeling the hybridized purposes, right? So we're not achieving single purposes of advertising or educating. We are achieving different kinds of purposes at the same time, and these are often mixed. And to achieve these hybridized communicative purposes, we have a more extensive move structure. We have longer moves, right? And we also have the orchestration of multimodal resources, okay? And that also gives us the opportunity to consider teaching as a design, as a film, okay? So we can think about the kind of a directing process, right? The choices of cinematography, within shot mise-en-scène and also across shot editing. Okay, and then beyond that, we need to explain the new features in relation to the social context and technological context, right? In relation to the changing pedagogy, in relation to the new affordances of social media, and so on. Okay, so I'm sorry, I started a bit late, so it's a bit of a rush. Okay, but I hope I have explained these points clearly. So I think we still have time for questions. So I can answer your questions if any. Okay, thank you very much.